Hey, it's good to see you. Tonight, I wanted to share with you I think I'm going to call this like highbrow beach reads or highbrow beach books. So these are just books that you can read at the beach without losing your mind. So nice, relaxing, but at the same time, engaging, superbly written, and clever, creative, or artistic. Because that's my ideal beach read. I'll read all kinds of stuff on the beach, but a few years ago I read, for example, My Sister is a Serial Killer. I think that's what it's called. And I really enjoyed it. I would not have read it beyond the beach, and I did enjoy it on the beach, but at the same time, it was not my ideal beach read, because I felt like the prose could have been a little tighter, but maybe that's just me being picky. Anyway, so these are very good books for the beach according to my preferences and my taste. If you don't vibe with it, don't listen to me. No worries. And feel free, as always, to leave your own recommendations down below. So I have five novels. And then I'm trying to count in my head. And then I have 2 nonfiction books, 1, 2. So, beginning with the novels, the first one we have is Bonjour, Tristesse by Françoise Sagan. So this was originally written in French, but I have it in English, and for those of you who have never studied French, it just means hello sadness. Françoise wrote it when she was, I think, just 19, which is very impressive. It's a sort of novella-length novel, which I think suits the beach beautifully. And as you can see, it makes for great beach reading, and it really does. So it's about a young woman who is summering on the French Riviera with her father, who is widowed, and he has this mistress woman who comes by, and the daughter, young woman, she doesn't mind the mistress until her father lets it be known that he would like to marry this woman, and she, the young woman daughter, will have none of that. So it's highbrow, quote unquote, because it is beautifully written. It's so gorgeous, the prose, especially when it comes to description. And I would say it's the perfect beach read for the drama, first and foremost, and also the setting, which is the French Riviera during summer, which is going to match you on the beach. And it's also, there's another kind of subplot, which is her meeting this guy that she's kind of into. So there's some romance, some drama, some beautiful settings, and I did not read this on the beach, but I did read it last summer, and I really enjoyed reading it during the summer. So, okay. Next up is The Virgins by Pamela Aarons. The Virgins by Pamela Aarons. This one has deckled edges. Tell me your thoughts about deckled edges, please, because I really don't like them, truth be told. I feel like these would collect sand, but this was published, I think, by Tin House. Yeah, Tin House Books, which is like a small press. So, this book, The Virgins, takes place in 1979 at a boarding school. And it is about these two young students at the boarding school, Aviva and Sung, who are in a relationship. And everyone at the school is like mystified by them and so nosy about their business, kind of seemingly like live vicariously through them, gossip about them, watch them. It doesn't in the moment feel insidious, but the interesting thing about this book is that it's narrated by a classmate of theirs, but it's mostly about their relationship and the way they're perceived by other people. So it's a really enjoyable read. I love a campus novel when it's well done, or a boarding school novel when it's well done. And this is that. A campus novel, boarding school novel that is well done. So why it is highbrow, quote unquote, hit my face, quote unquote, is in part because of the way it's narrated. So narrated by their classmate, but it's about their relationship in many ways. So the narrator, Bruce, has to imagine a lot of scenes that take place between just Aviva and Sung, because Bruce was not present for those. And the way Aarons pulls this off is really tricky and really gorgeous and lush and complicated and beautiful. And why it's good for a beach read is because, again, there's the romance vibe. It does take place at a school, which is not like summer vibes per se, but it's got a really kind of lush feel to it, as I said, and there's a lot of romance in it, and it, as the title would suggest, Aviva and Sung's virginity comes into play, and it's just like a strange love story, kind of. So I think this would be fun to read at the beach. Okay. Next is Outline. So when I bought it at Skylight, I bought the whole trilogy at Skylight, so it's signed, which is awesome. By Rachel Cusk. Has this gorgeous matte cover with a shiny photo on it of a shell. And I just like the sounds it makes. So Outline is autofiction. The protagonist, Faye, I think her name is, Faye, seems very like Rachel Cusk. She teaches writing and is a writer and is a woman in a similar phase of life. In this book, she goes to Greece, I believe Athens, to teach writing. And while she's there, she goes out to lunch at cafes. She teaches workshops. She talks to a man on the plane. She goes out on a boat. And all of that makes it a good beach read, I think. And so the setting is like beautiful for a summer book or a beach book. It's also really beautifully written, I think, and why it's highbrow, quote unquote, is, I would say, the way it's narrated. The woman Faye, who is the main character, who is present in every scene, she has very little agency of her own, very little personality that we get to see. She just kind of fades into the background. And instead what we see is her retelling all these stories she hears from other people. And so we learn some about her through that. But it's very artfully done, I think. And why it's good for the beach is the setting more than anything. And also because it's a lot of received conversations in the end. It just feels like you're overhearing tons of combos, just eavesdropping for hours and hours in the best possible way. And I think that that would be, for me at least, a very fun beach reading experience. So, after that, we have Hot Milk, hot milk, Hot Milk by Deborah Levy. Again, a great beach book, as you will soon hear from me. Man Booker Prize finalist. Good for Deborah. I love these colors together too. Okay, so in Hot Milk, what is her name? Sophia. Sophia goes to southern Spain, I believe, with her mother. And she spends a lot of time at the ocean, but they're actually there because she has a codependent relationship with her mother. Sophia is just 25, and she put her thesis on pause to take care of her mother, who has this unexplained illness. I think she just her limbs paralyzed from time to time, and Sophia maybe kind of thinks it's performed or fake, I'm not sure. But anyway, they go to Spain to meet with a doctor there, Dr. Gomez, who is a kind of specialist and is like their last hope for solving her mother's illness. But yeah, lots of time on the beach, lots of time in the sea, lots of time swimming. There are jellyfish. There's like a little romance between Sophia and this guy. And her relationship with her mother is also very interesting. So I found it a very interesting read. So why it's highbrow, quote unquote, is again, the way it's written is very interesting to me. Like, elevates it to literature. It seems normal, sort of a run-of-the-mill story in some ways, or not run-of-the-mill, but just moving along. And the further you get to the end, the more you realize that maybe things haven't been happening exactly in chronological order, which is really interesting. And then I would also say the characterization, or the character development of Sophia and her mother and that relationship is really thought-provoking and interesting, and rendered really well on the why it's good for the beach. There's a hunky guy, sure, why not? So a little romance, and jellyfish, and the beach itself. So, Hot Milk, great title too. And then, yeah, our last novel is this funny little thing, Mrs. Caliban. An eye, a little mouth. It's by Rachel Ingalls. And this one is odd for sure. When was it published? 83. So, it's about this housewife chilling at home while her husband's at work. She's listening to the radio and she's like, life is so boring. And this giant green kind of frog man just appears in her home. I think he ran away from a secret lab. I think he was an experiment. Yeah, he was an experiment. So he runs away and he finds himself in her home. She's scared at first, but then she like gives him some snacks and they make friends with one another, and then they kind of fall in love too, because like it's a departure from her boring life as a housewife, with a husband who's pretty ungrateful for her. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about it. But it's kooky. So why it's highbrow, quote unquote. I just think it's cleverly written. There are some really brilliant scenes in here that read as very clever satire, I think. And there's also like a bit of, it's like a literary, I don't know, it's not sci-fi quite, but like there's a Twilight Zone element to it that I really dig. But again, just on a prose level and like thematically, I think I would call it like a little more elevated. And I'm not knocking like genre stuff either. I do really like it, but I tend to go for literary fiction. We can talk about genre some other time in some other video if you want. In any case, I think the satire would make it and why it's a good beach book. Again, there's this very odd relationship between her and the frog man that is just not only lovely and delightful in some ways, but also just really fun and funny to read about. And I think that would be super, super fun on the beach. Alright, then going to hit the 2 nonfiction books. The first of which is by our girl Anne Helen Peterson. It's called Too Fat, Too Slutty, Too Loud. The rise and reign of the unruly woman. So I've talked about her before, I think. I don't know if she still does, but I think she's a culture writer for BuzzFeed. And I really liked her book, Can't Even. But I do not recommend Can't Even for the beach because it's about millennial burnout and financial crises and things like that. So it's great, but not for the beach. Whereas this book is a collection of essays about unruly women and like the ways in which they shirk societal expectation of what like a proper, well-behaved feminist woman should be like. If you want to get an idea of what the book is like, I believe her essay on Kim Kardashian from this is available online, and it's so good. But so it's like Too Strong, Serena Williams, Too Fat, Melissa McCarthy, Too Gross, Abby Jacobson and Alana Glazer, Too Slutty, Nicki Minaj, Too Old, Madonna, Too Pregnant, Kim Kardashian, Too Shrill, Hillary Clinton, Too Queer, Caitlyn Jenner, Too Loud, Jennifer Weiner, Too Naked, Lena Dunham. So the ways in which those women kind of grab hold of these monikers, sort of, or like labels, like, oh, she's too loud, oh, she's too fat, oh, she's too slutty, and harness them, make them their own, make money off of them, make careers off of them, find happiness through them. It's not all like rays of sunshine, kind of like overly optimistic. It's just interesting. I think, it's an interesting book, and I really enjoyed reading it. And then we have this guy, which I've also shown to you, called Because Internet. Understanding the New Rules of Language by Gretchen McCullough. My version's like the mass market paper book. It's like a little doorstop. But it's really not that long. It basically discusses how the internet is changing and shaping language, not in a scary way. Language is ever evolving, ever growing, ever changing, because it's an organism, and you can think of it as like open source. Like, we are all partaking in it at all times. We are all contributing to it at all times, and shaping it and molding it. So it just talks about internet's role in that, and discusses linguistically, like how internet syntax can differ from usual written word and things like that, the use of emoji, with crazy boring things that are not boring to me and are not boring to anyone, I don't think, in this context. Things you've probably already noticed yourself, how do you make an emoji, how do you emphasize an emoji? You do it twice, right? We all do that. And so she kind of will unpack, for example, why that is in this book. So I hope you could find a decent beach highbrow beach book in this little rec video of mine. If you are really going to the beach, have a great time. Send photos. I hope you're doing super well, and if you're not, that is okay too. I'll see you very soon, and until then, good night.